Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So, as you know, Monday means it's Modern Monday here in Instant Deck Tech land, and we have a super sweet Delver list to check out today. So Delver is this card that's always kind of floating on the cusp in the Modern format, but this is a pretty unique take on Delver. This is Faerie Ninja Delver. Comes to us from Lucky Bear 41, who took it to a 5-0 finish in a competitive league on Magic Online, so congrats to Lucky Bear on a super sweet deck. A quick reminder before we break down Faerie Ninja Delver for Modern. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So a long time ago, there was a Delver list featuring Phantasmal Bear. It was called Ninja Bear Delver. I think it was originally made by Travis Wu. And this deck, our Faerie Ninja Delver, is kind of the natural progression of that deck. We don't have Phantasmal Bear anymore, but alongside our Delver of Secrets, we have Faerie Miscreant. And Faerie Miscreant is pretty much an upgrade over Phantasmal Bear in the deck. We lose a power, we lose a toughness, we also lose the drawback of being a illusion, so whenever we get targeted with something, our bear dies. The big deal here, though, is what we really want to do with this deck is play a 1-drop, like Delver, like Faerie Miscreant, and then we can use our 1-drops to get down our Ninja of the Deep Hours and draw a card with ninjitsu on turn 2. So Faerie Miscreant's much better at this job than Phantasmal Bear because it has flying, and for ninjitsu to work, a creature has to attack and not be blocked, and it's a lot harder to block flyers. So the idea of this deck is on turn 1, we stick a Delver. Maybe we just flip the Delver. We have a ton of spells in the deck, get a 3/2 flyer, start beating down that way. So that's kind of plan 1. We also have Faerie Miscreant and Ninja of Deep Hours, which creates this really interesting value package. We can cast our Faerie Miscreant, attack with it, it's going to be unblocked because it has flying, get in our Ninja, draw a card, pick up the Faerie Miscreant, maybe we draw another Faerie Miscreant, so we get to draw an extra card from the second copy when it enters the battlefield, and we just kind of tempo our opponent out of the game with these really weird, tricky early game creatures. We also have a couple more creatures to round out the creature base. We have Spellstutter Sprite, which works really well with Faerie Miscreant because it gets powered up by our Faerie Miscreant. So this is another advantage over the Phantasmal Bear, because Spellstutter Sprite, normally, if we have no other fairies, it counters something with converted mana cost 1 or less, but if we have some Faerie Miscreants out, we kind of up that. So maybe we can catch a Tarmogoyf for a Dark Confidant, or something a little bit more expensive. Also, Spellstutter is another sweet creature to pick up with our Ninja of the Deep Hours, so we can attack, pick it back up, do that whole ninjitsu trick, but then we can, let's say, cast it to counter maybe a Path to Exile or a Lightning Bolt or a Fatal Push on our Delver, and then we can always reuse it in the late game thanks to our Ninja of the Deep Hours and counter something else. And then Snapcaster Mage just takes advantage of the fact that our deck is overloaded with spells. So very cheap, efficient, often evasive creatures, and then we back that up with a bunch of tempo. We're very heavy on the tempo plan. So Vapor Snag is really good in this deck. It gets a blocker out of the way, and normally Unsummon's a little sketchy because it's card disadvantage, but it also deals a damage, which is relevant. We're pinging in for these tiny points of damage. 3 from our Delver, 1 from Faerie Miscreants, 2 from our Ninjas and Snapcasters and so forth. So every little bit of damage adds up, and Vapor Snake can do some really awesome things with Snapcaster, kind of like the Bolt Snap Bolt play we used to see. Vapor Snake works really well when that line 2. Bounce 2 creatures, get in a big attack, drain your opponent for a couple life. Lightning Bolt, very efficient, kills creatures in the early game, goes to the face in the late game. Electrolyze, a bit more expensive, can take down 2 small creatures, also draws us a card, which is a nice upside. Then we have a bunch of counter spells. Probably the most interesting one of the bunch is the Disrupting Shoal. Disrupting Shoal is the closest thing we have to Force of Will in Modern. Unfortunately, it's very restricted. The problem with Disrupting Shoal is you can exile a blue card from your hand, just like Force of Will basically, but it only counters a spell that has the same converted mana mana cost as the blue card that you exile. So in our deck, we're mostly countering 1 or 2 drops, which is still fine. Our opponent goes to Fatal Push our Delver, we can use Disrupting Shoal to save it. Our opponent goes to cast a Tarmogoyf, we can exile a Snapcaster and save it. We can always hard cast it as well, but it's a surprise thing in Modern. That's the biggest advantage of Disrupting Shoal, is people don't really expect it. In Legacy, you're aware of Force of Will. You try to play around Force of Will, but no one really expects the Disrupting Shoal Force of Will in the Modern format, so you get some free value there. Otherwise, we have Spell Snare, really important for turn 2 plays, especially if you're on the draw. It's a way to not get too far behind when you play your land, your opponent untaps on turn 2, plays a Tarmogoyf for a Dark Confidant. Then we have a few remands for some nice tempo value, and then at the top of our counter curve, we have a couple of cryptic commands. Tons of value there, not just countering things, but drawing cards, tapping down blockers. We also have Serum Visions to kind of hold things together, also to help us flip our Delver. This is our kind of our brainstorm. You see in Legacy, people brainstorming to get the right card on top for their Delver of Secrets to flip. Serum Visions, kind of our version of that in Modern. As far as the mana base, a bunch of fetch lands gives us some free Delver value, since we can take a peek at the top card of our library when we're trying to flip Delver. If we don't like that card, we can shuffle it away, so just really weird small edges that you can get with this deck, even with the fetch lands. Fetching out Steam Vents, some basic lands, and then Spire, Bluff, Canal. As far as the sideboard, we got Blood Moon, of course. Our mana base can support it. It's another good free win card to just surprise opponents out of the sideboard. A bunch more counters, the Missing Remand, another Spell Snare, which comes in primarily when you are on the draw. Much better on the draw. Still matchup dependent, but on the draw it's much better. Dispel and some Ceremonious Rejections to fight against Tron and Eldrazi. Then we have a bit of removal as well. Fork Bolt, Vapor Snag, Electrolyze. Is it Staticaster? Can shoot down a whole bunch of Lingering Souls or Young Pyromancer tokens. Bifors for Affinity, and then Sower of Temptations can sneak in and steal a Worm Coil Engine or something along those lines. And that is Faerie Ninja Delver for Modern, and that's our Instant Deck Tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.